All right, guys, Gabe Cordova with Firepoint. Want to talk to you about refresh, implement, get results when you go to conferences. In particular, IMA in New York just happened, and we've got a guest here who's been in the business a long time, just like myself, Damon Gatier. He is a coach with Club Wealth, a brokerage owner, real estate agent. Damon, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, tell us a little bit, give us the 30, 45-second history of who you are, what you've done, built, and where you are today.
I'm 16 years in the business, been in the business since 2002. Like everybody, I went through the good times before 2007-8 that had the slump, did REOs and learned that business had to be a different way besides REO and foreclosures. So went to attraction marketing, did a lot of radio, TV. Of course, Boomtown, back when Boomtown was the only.
You're better on radio than TV, just.
Oh, yeah. No, I have the perfect face for radio. Then, I stepped out of the business probably 6 years ago. I haven't listed or sold a property in 6 years, just run a fantastic team of great people and coach for Club Wealth.
Awesome. So I've known Damon for a long time. We would see each other on the road. I don't know how many conferences we've been to between the two of us, but I'm sure it's hundreds and hundreds. And I think we've always seen the same thing where we go, and we've even done the same thing. We go, we get this list, we're looking at this list, we get home and we're like, crap, what do you do, right? And we've seen people the same thing over, we talk about, or they would talk about implementing, and most of the time, it never happens?
It never happens, or they come back and their teams shake their heads like, holy crap, Damon just came back from a conference. What is he going to do this time?
Right, exactly. So what we want to do, we want to make this short and sweet for everybody. We know everybody's super busy, but everybody does things differently, right? So we want to share with you, Damon's going to share it with you. He has got a great process. We'll show it to you later. Just things to think about when you're going to a conference and all that. We'll share it. And then I'm going to share with you as well, easy steps to actually implement, because we're investing time and money when we go to these, right? Time is money, but it's both. We have travel, we have hotel, the cost of getting there. Some of these conferences are $1,000 or more, right? So we need to get the most out of them as possible. So we're just going to go back and forth, share with you guys steps to make things happen. At the bottom of the screen, you are going to notice that there's a Q&A. Any questions you have, just type them in there. We'll answer them live or afterwards. So we'd love to answer any questions that you guys have. So Damon, start off, because when you and I were chatting about this yesterday, you kind of started rambling your spiel. It's just that you're so accustomed to it because you've done it so much. Kind of run through those first, not so much the how, and we'll show them later what it is, but those first few steps of kind of your thought process when you're going. Because I thought it was great. Well,
anytime I go to a conference, it's the why, what, who. Why am I going? What do I want to bring back from this conference? And I think it's important to have that before you go to a conference. What do I want to get? What do I want to bring back? What do I want to implement? I think a lot of people go and just see what they can bring back, then they come back without a plan. So I think the first is, when you're going, what do you want? What are you looking for? That's the number one thing.
Okay.
And then, from there, it's the what. What did you experience? What did you see? And who's doing it?
And I'm sharing a little bit of this while you're talking. So I'm going to show you your why and what right now, just while you're talking.
Okay. So, on the why, if you didn't go looking and hope to find something, why'd you go? You need to have a purpose in going. And then the what, what did you see?
But the conference is in San Diego, and I love San Diego because it's sunny and warm. Can that be my why?
That's a weak why. If you want a vacation, it's a great reason to go. But you know me, I'm a workaholic. I love business, and I love making business better. So it'd be hard for me. On the what, what did you find that you could use? Was it what you expected, and what's the quickest way you can implement it?
Okay.
And, Gabe, just like me, those who are the most successful in this business copy from other successful people.
R&D, right? Rip off and duplicate?
Absolutely. It's the cheapest way to do it.
And something on your what that I think triggers too is, I think people just sign up for a conference. Oh, there's a conference, sure, I'm going to go. But they're all catered to something, right? Some are a technology conference, or some are about it's a listing summit, or it's about lead conversion. I think you need to know what kind of conference you're going into, right?
Absolutely. That goes back to the whole why. If you're going, why are you going? Right. What is it you want to get? And I guess some people attend, but I like having a purpose when I go.
Okay, cool. So go over your who. I thought this was interesting.
The who is, when you go to a conference, you're always going to have incredible real estate agents and real estate professionals at these conferences. So who do you want to meet? Who do you want to network with? Who is doing the business you want to do?
Right.
And, you know, it's amazing. Successful people like to talk and mentor and help other agents.
Right.
You know, so if you really have a desire to learn, if you can get to know some of these agents who are where you want to be, is a high likelihood that they'll help you get to where they are.
Well, and so this is what I see over and over, and I don't want to say it drove me crazy, but it drove me crazy, is you'd see 2 or 3 agents maybe from the same area that travel or that see each other. I mean, we saw each other all the time, but we didn't sit next to each other at every conference. Like, I made it a point. I wanted to sit next to different people and learn. I mean, something that you were a machine at was listing, right? I was PPC, online lead conversion processes, and that was most of my business, and we were weak in listing. And you were super strong. So when we focus on that, like, you were somebody I talked to, and I think people aren't focusing on building those relationships so they can rip off and duplicate. And I think agents are very giving by nature, right? And I mean, let's face it, when you're successful, we love talking about how great we are and what we did, and we want that pat on the back. But you know what? If you're growing your business in this business, find those people, because we love sharing it, right? It's not all ego. We do love sharing, sometimes too much, but that who is at the conference and understanding that, I think, is key, and a lot of people don't capitalize on that.
I agree 100%.
So very cool. All right, the where.
Okay, so, you know, real estate is the same everywhere, but it's not the same anywhere. You know, and it's funny because everybody says location, location, location. It could also be price, price, price.
Right.
Because price accommodates for anything. So not everything you see and hear is doable in all markets. You take farming. You know, someone doing a geographic farm and an average sales price of $100,000 is going to spend proportionally a ton more than someone selling the same amount of units that is doing geographic farming in San Diego, where the average price is $700,000.
Right. So I'm going to back you up there a second, because I mean, that went by really, really fast, and it's a huge nugget. So say that again, because I think people have the wrong expectations, and that's something, one of the things that they're going to conferences hearing that they need to start doing, because most agents aren't doing it. So say that again. I want to make sure people are catching that.
Well, geographic farming it's one of the hot buzz things right now. If you're in a market that the average sales price is $100,000, you're making $3,000 on a sale, then you're not going to hit the ROI, and it's going to be a very expensive way to market in comparison to someone that's in San Diego or Washington State, where the average sales price is $400,000 to $700,000.
Right.
There's a lot more dollars to spend to do that marketing there.
Right. Well, and again, having the right expectations. How long is it going to take? What's it going to cost? So what I want to get into, and again, I want to keep this short. We're about 9 minutes in. Is the how. All right. So you've gone, you've picked the location, you're going, you've deemed it's the right conference. So I kind of want to go back and forth, because and right or wrong, I mean, obviously we know mine are mostly right and yours are not as correct. But no, you're going to have your steps that work for you. I'm going to have mine. I just want people to hear difference somewhere in the middle or come up with their own. But I think you have to have some steps. So I'd love for you to kind of go through again some of your steps. And actually, I'm going to pull them back up so people can kind of see them. We'll talk about them, and then I'm just going to kind of go through mine a little bit too. And just, again, we don't have to overcomplicate this, right? We just need to actually act on it and make something happen. So let's go through.
Right. And I'm a huge fan of Trello. I used to use Google Sheets for everything, still use Google Sheets, but Trello, which we use here for organizing and for doing stuff like this, is just an incredible tool.
Awesome.
So, you know, define the project. You brought back this idea. And the last thing your team deserves or your staff deserves, you got this idea, you bring it back, you throw it out, and you say, do it. Okay. So, and you and I have both been guilty of doing that.
Never.
So define the problem. Tell them this is the project. This is what we need to do. And you need to be able to enunciate. You need to be able to explain the vision of the project to them instead of, I want this to happen, make it happen. Okay. Explain how it works, why it's going to work, and the benefit to the team or to the group if it does work.
Right. So really the expectations, right?
Exactly. Expectations, you know, and develop a step-by-step plan to implement.
All right.
You know, step-by-step, who's responsible for what, how are you going to do it, and what it's going to cost.
Okay.
I just skipped right
past
that.
Cost? What do you mean?
Nothing's free in real estate. Everything costs money, and time is money. So everything's money in real estate. And that's one thing I think a lot of agents need to realize. You need to figure out, you know, take what you earned last year, divide it by 2,080 hours, and that's what your time per hour is worth.
Right.
And
you know as well as I do, that's probably one of the weak spots for most real estate agents. It was for us for a long time, is not tracking their ROI and their expenses, not even understanding it, man. We just spend money and hope it comes back.
correct.
So, I mean, probably one of the things we need to implement as a group, but that costing, is that something you'd factor in there then? If you're,
Absolutely.
your
Near the top of every list I have is, what does it cost?
Right.
And you're right. So many of us, we've lost money for year over year because we never tracked the ROI because we're making money. Right. We take out the fact that we have to pay an agent. And a lot of us, once we paid the agent, we paid money so that the agent can make an income.
Right.
That's not the ultimate goal of a business.
And just a shameless plug, guys, that's one thing we love about Firepoint is you can actually factor all the ROI and everything on the net commission, what you're keeping, not the gross, and we do all that for you in the system. So sorry, I just want to throw in a shameless plug there for Firepoint.
What resources are associated? And resources, I'm not talking about money here. I'm talking about space. I'm talking about staff, faculty, whether they're virtual or, stateside. Everything you do is going to have a toll on the support staff you have. How much of that is it going to take?
Right. Yep.
You can outsource a farm or you can do it yourself. You do it yourself, you got to associate the cost with the staff to do that.
Yep, I agree.
People and resources, make sure you have them in place.
Right.
Trello, we use it. You can use Google Sheets. You can use Google. I'm a huge fan of doing something where I can share it with someone else.
Right.
Someone else can see what I'm working on and work on it with me, as opposed to me doing all the work myself, which I don't like doing any of it myself. So,
do a webinar.
What's the expected ROI? What are you expecting to make? What's every dollar you spend, you're responsible for making sure that money makes you money plus back. And a 1-to-1 ROI, 2-to-1 ROI. I was explaining to someone not in the industry the other day. They're like, 2-to-1 ROI, that's great. Not if you're paying an agent.
Right.
If you're paying an agent, 2-to-1 ROI means you're broke.
Right.
And so you need to establish what's your expected ROI, how you're going to track it, and how long you're going to give this project to get it there.
Right.
And you can have realistic expectations.
Yep. And to me, those are two things right there. And we kind of touched on it a few minutes ago. But until you figure this out, stop spending money. It's so easy to spend money. I mean, this phone rings all the time from providers of lead sources or whatever wanting our money. We've got to get the tools in place to understand where the money's going and where it's coming back before we start adding more. And it's just something we keep missing over and over.
And I'll tell you something I tell my coaching clients all the time. A real easy way to know whether you need a system or not is, did they call you or did you call them?
Yeah.
If they called you, you probably don't need them because you haven't heard of them. Right. If you're calling them, it's because other people listen to, respect, and look up to are using that system and have told you to reach out to them.
Right. And don't reinvent it. Reach out to your peers. And again, not one system is perfect for everybody, but find out who's doing business like what you want to do and these questions up above, the whys and stuff, and get those systems. You don't have to go out on your own and find something different. There's so many people that have already figured it out for you.
Correct. And then, everything must have an ROI. I hear agents all the time wanting to brand themselves. And look, you're not Nike, you're not Coca-Cola. You don't have the money to brand yourselves.
Right.
Everything you do needs to be tied to a return on your investment. And if you're doing 1,000 or 2,000 of deals, you might have the money. But until you're doing that, you don't have the money to brand yourself. Everything you do needs to be designed to generate income.
Right. Okay. Cool.
And then you've heard me say this a million times, the biggest group of liars you're ever going to meet is going to be in those rooms at those conferences. you and I've been there. You've got to find out the truth. You've got to drill down. When somebody says they're making, ask the questions. Right. Drill down deep on it. Are they really making money on it, or is it just a talking point for them?
Right. Yep.
You and I know a lot of people who sell hundreds and hundreds of houses that are broke.
Oh, yeah. Well, and people who say I just actually chatted with somebody the other day. Yeah, I'm converting 7 or 8% of my PPC leads. I'm like, no, you're not. Like, we know it's like, and we drove down. It's like, well, I take out the bad numbers and I take out the names. Like, well, those still cost you money, right? So what's true conversion? So, no, absolutely, yeah. And I'm going to touch on mine. And we're going to come back to that, but it's about honesty. So, all right, what's your last one there?
Other one is, if you're interested in learning how to implement this stuff and how to use it and whatnot, Club Wealth has a 55-minute free needs assessment. You can go to Club Wealth and you can schedule it. Michael Hellickson's Club Wealth, incredible organization. Just go there and find out.
Cool. And I'm going to come back to that. So, so I didn't get as fancy on Trello. So what I want to do is I want to go through though, and just talk about some points. And it's very similar to, I think, what you're doing. And we just touched on it. But when you go to these conferences and you've got that list again, we're looking at it. To me, you have to be humble and you need to be able to start from a point of honesty, right? You need to figure out where you're dropping the ball, right? And what are you bad at? Like we did it all the time. And as you're growing your teams, you just kind of forget how bad you are at returning phone calls, how bad you're at tracking expenses, whatever it is. But to me, when you're going through all those things that you just did, is you have to be able to start at a point of honesty and just, where do I suck, right? What do I suck at? What do I not want to do? I think that's okay too, right? Because you're all good at something. And if it's not in your wheelhouse, focus on something else. Get somebody on your team, recruit for that position, because then it frees you up to do other things. And I think referring to those notes, you go back to what you were talking about, the why. Why are you going? What are you looking for? I think you need to find those, right? Identify, where you suck and what you're not doing well, but identify from those notes what you're going to implement. And then the biggest thing to me is timeline, right? Is what is the timeline for this? What is the expected? Because you're saying look at the cost, which I think is great. I didn't put that on mine. I think right next to that, though, is also time.
Right.
It might be something that takes, 6, 10, 12 months to implement. Well, maybe there was a 2 to 4 weeks item that you can do that starts generating more revenue so that you can then implement other things, right? So I would definitely look at the timeline as well as that. And the one I really want to get back to was your last one. To me, it's accountability. All right. So you can have all the intentions in the world to do this stuff. And you have these lists and they're laying around my desk. I can still show you. I still do it somewhat. You have all these lists of things you want to do, but I think you have to have an accountability partner. All right. And you mentioned like through you and Club Wealth, and it's not just you. So, and I love Club Wealth. You guys have a great group. Is the group open to anyone? Do you have to be a coaching client to be in the group?
Anyone can be in Club Wealth.
Right. So guys, Club Wealth, if you're listening to this, I would look it up on Facebook. It's an incredible group, a ton of knowledge. You don't have to be a coaching client. But when it comes to implementing, so starting from a point of honesty, referring to your notes and filling in the holes, your timeline, but accountability. All right. If you can get a coach, they have that free 55-minute assessment thing. I think that's great, but it can be your broker. All right. Or if you're on a team, somebody on your team. All right, when you're recruiting buyer's agents, I don't know about you, Damon, but I feel responsible when I recruit somebody on. Am I going to provide what they need?
Correct.
Right? Them paying their mortgage and feeding their kids is on me as the team lead recruiting them. So to me, I'm okay having them hold me accountable if I say I'm going to come in and do it, because we'd come back from those conferences and go, guess what, guys, we're changing everything. But then, I need to be held accountable. I'm going to make the change that they're going to. You're not on a team. You don't want to have your broker do it, man. Have your spouse. Like Damon, you just said, everything we do in this business is expensive, right? It affects what we're doing. So, have a spouse do it, man. We're gone all the time. We're on the phone in the evenings and on the weekends all the time. Have somebody hold you accountable. You have to have it or it's not going to happen.
And back to your point real quick about the team.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to realize that if you have a team, your team pretty much hates you going to these seminars. Because when they come back, they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. What are you going to change? And you need to realize that. So when you need to have a plan in place, and it doesn't – every time you go to a seminar, you don't have to change the whole team. Right. That's where the accountability Gabe's talking about really comes into play, is make sure it's something that is something you want to continue with and is good for the team before you start changing it.
Well, and really, what does it change on the team, right? Because every little thing changes one dynamic or one part of the team. It's not necessarily just lead flow or your CRM and your systems, but it could be anything, just from the time they work, how they work, when they work, things like that. So, so what we'll do, this is going to replay too. So you can ask questions on Facebook on the Q&A section. This will be replaying as well. So if you guys have questions, you're watching this on a replay, still chime in. We'll keep an eye on those and answer your questions and go from there. You can also chime in if you want a copy of Damon's checklist. He's more than happy to let us share that with you guys so you can do it. But I'm going to put you on the spot. We didn't talk about this. Of that whole that long list that you did, I always think people need to take away one thing. All right? You need to take away one thing, start from there, and go forward. So when it comes to implementing conferences, what's the one step? What's that one step they have to do well, and they have to do it right off the bat?
Lead with ROI.
Lead with ROI. Tell me, give me a little bit more of a definition to that.
so many people come back and they want to put something in place and they destroy their whole team and they reconstruct it and they didn't do it with the ROI in place. And a lot of these systems, a lot of the things you might want to try are expensive. I mean, everything in this business is expensive. Right. You need to have something in place where you're making money from day one.
Right.
Unless you have some angel investor that's going to fund your business, you need to be leading with ROI constantly. I think it's the one thing real estate agents forget is that we're in a for-profit business.
Or that I think I forget sometimes it's a business like versus a hobby. Man, it gets expensive, and just giving up part of your commission here or there, or just not even understanding where they're coming from. So lead with ROI. I think that's huge. My big one is just also starting from a point of honesty. I think until you can understand where you're dropping the ball, where the holes are in the bucket, and where you're losing all that money, and admit it, it's really hard to fix it. Because sometimes you want a shiny toy or a new tool in your business, but it's not fixing what's broken because you can't be honest with yourself. And I think that's a huge one for really taking that business to the next level.
Well, go a step further than that, Gabe, because you're on the right track.
Of course.
If you've got holes in your bucket, don't implement anything else. Fix the holes.
Right, fix the holes. That's a good point. Yeah.
If you've got holes, go all the way back to what you said. That's probably the most important thing of this whole seminar is if you've got holes in your bucket, identify them. Be honest with yourself. Identify them. Unless that conference is going to fix those holes, stay at home and fix your holes.
Right.
Once your holes are fixed, once your systems are in place, then go find something else to implement. Right. But until you have what you have in place fixed and running,
right,
don't go anywhere else and spend any more money.
Right.
And that's one of the rules Club Wealth has for our coaching students is you can't spend more than $200 without asking your coach because we love to spend money.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's so easy. It's so easy. I mean, it really, really is. So awesome. All right. We're going to wrap it up. We're a little over 20 some minutes. Damon, thank you so much again. Club Wealth, is it clubwealth.com, I believe?
Yes, sir.
Website. And again, it's Club Wealth on Facebook, guys. It's a great group with a ton of information, advice from other agents. And you do not have to be a coaching client. You can reach out to them and to Damon. They have that 55-minute assessment meeting to take advantage of. So Damon, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. And we'll do it again sometime soon.
Thanks, Gabe.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take care. Bye.